So there's no way we could have Alan walk into the studio and let him leave after just 30 minutes, especially when there's a 25-pack of toilet paper sitting next to you and rocks that have gone untold.
What on earth are you doing bringing your shopping?
So this is just a little bit of bonus, Alan. Alan, should we go to the toilet paper or the
Let's do that.
tube on it?
We'll do that one. Let's do this. Because
Toilet
they sort of lead in.
So to clarify, it's deliberate.
It is deliberate.
And what's going on, man?
Well, I know you've done things about deep time in the past quite a lot, and honestly, I find it staggering, and I find it gives me the most wonder trying to think about time, and it's so important in anything about geology. It's so important, and it's incomprehensible. So I've tried,
so hard, isn't it?
It's impossible.
It is hard.
I cannot think of a million years.
I can hardly think of last week.
But even just
gets harder as you get older as well, doesn't it?
I couldn't
know.
Sorry, guys, I've got that youthful demeanour about me.
Indeed.
Yeah, but even sometimes we explain to kiddies that like the time that's passed between now and the dinosaurs is like it's all up in the air.
Absolutely. So I don't think this is original, but I think it works really well. I love the toilet paper analogy, and the idea is I don't know, and it works from toddlers to OAPs, and that's basically that if you imagine a life, right? So a life, we're all going to live to 100. Let's be hopeful, right? So if you have a sheet of toilet paper, so I'll take one of these out here, right? Sheet of toilet paper. Let's break it open. I'm gonna have to.
This reminds me of the COVID stockpiling our toilet paper.
Yeah. So one sheet, exactly. This is where it all went. I was doing lots of these at COVID. One sheet of toilet paper. Oh, that's a pretty bad one. But let's say that's 100 years, right?
Okay.
So that has about 200 sheets of toilet paper. Yeah, it changes how fancy you're going to be, but about 200 sheets of toilet paper. So that is 20,000 years. 100 times 200. 20,000 years. So that's 20,000 years, right?
It's just the surface.
And so that each one of those is a life. Let's say a life, one after the other.
One for Alan, one for me, one for
you
Anthony.
And we're obviously, we're shingling a bit. So, so you have to start when one dies, really, to make it work.
Keep going on about how bloody old we are.
That's right. Anyway, okay, yeah. So that's right.
So this is 20,000 years.
That's 20,000 years, right? So 20,000 years is pretty old. So this in the Woolies and Rundle Mall, I was walking here. They didn't have the 50 packs, but they had. It's actually a 24 pack. Imagine it's a 25 pack.
Yep, 25
so
packs.
So that's 500,000 years. Right? Two of them. That's 1 million years. Hominids came around, 3 to 4 million years ago. It depends on the next fossil that's found in East Africa, but about 3 to 4 million years. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, something like that of those. And that's something that looks like humans, right? Apes coming down from trees, walking around, that sort of thing. Now, if we go back to the dinosaurs, you said, so that's 66. So that's 66 times 2 of these. What's that? 100.
That's a lot.
120. It's 120 something.
It's 120 plus what? Plus
anyway,
132.
132.
Thank you.
Well done.
That's 132 of these. You imagine them all. They'll still fit in this room.
And that's just to get to T-Rex.
That's to get to T-Rex. Yeah. So you're getting back to life, or to the beginning of the Phanerozoic, when animals got hard parts. That's at the moment. That's 538 million years ago. Actually changed by a million years last year, but it depends on how people date things. But that's 538 million years ago, and so you've got quite a lot of these now. So you've now got over 1,000 of them to get back to when you could find fossils nicely.
And just to be clear, that's still only
that's the last 1/9 of Earth history. You've got 8/9 of Earth history before that. Now I'm not going to try and do the maths of adding all these things up then after that. But you can see that you can start to picture the amount of toilet papers rolls that you'd need, and you're starting to think about buildings full of them to give you a concept of to picture that amount, that deep time, and it is deep. That time.
There's a look of distress on Alan's face.
Yeah, it is, but you start thinking, it's huge, and I do find that quite a useful concept to. You can start to think about, well, actually, if you put them all out in a row, you're starting to get down to the, a couple of blocks away of all of these toilet paper. It's staggering, right?
Unbelievable. I always like I love that you mentioned hominids. I love putting human evolution in there because I think when we ask people to really cast their minds back, we think, pre-humans. It's like, no, babe, that's just the start.
Yeah,
really,
absolutely.
Really. So that was a pretty impressive bonus content round one. Now I see something that looks like what the
It looks exactly what it is.
yeah,
Sort of black slime.
kind of.
Yeah.
No connection to toilet paper, just to clarify.
Yeah, that didn't come from a toilet. That came from.
This is dead stuff. This is dead animals, dead bacteria, dead archaea. So this is bitumen, right? This is sort of an oil product, petroleum product. But this actually came out of a rock a bit something a bit like that. It actually came out of a rock. You know, shales, fine-grained shales. They have a component of organic matter within them, and you can separate that out of them. But that comes from life that was 1.4 billion years old. So this is back in the middle of this wonderful Proterozoic times. This is some of the oldest, some of the oldest petroleum. But when you say petroleum, that's actually just life. This is some of the oldest sort of concentrated dead life, if that's not a
cellular product.
Cellular product, yeah. It's amazing. I mean, when you think about it, that's amazing. That is actually, that's not like a funny sort of isotopic change or something. That is actually the fossil life. That is it. That's died, rotted, left a slime behind, and that's the slime it left behind.
If I look this good 1.1 billion years after I die.
Okay, well, yeah, that's not a high bar.
If I'm being held up in a futuristic pop booth studio, then I've done something right.
I think,
but it's staggering, isn't it? You think of that's
sick.
actually the same carbon that was in those bacterial slime.
Who knew petroleum was so poetic?
in effect, that is some physical evidence or product from our literal ancestors.
Yeah. That comes from Northern Australia. That comes from near Katherine in Northern Australia, in this Beetaloo Basin that is being quite controversial about people actually trying to produce gas from it at the moment, which is, by the way, the oldest gas that will be commercial anywhere in the world.
Wow.
Almost 1 billion years older than the next oldest, which is staggering. But again, that's a real fossil fuel. That's a deep time fossil fuel, right?
It's an OG fossil fuel. I think I just had a moment of, oh God, when you said ancestor. That's crazy, isn't it?
Well, as in...
No. It's still scientific. It's a bit.
Do you recognise?
I do have quite the nose. I have quite a recognisable. And
that's not what I. No, we better explain that though. Ancestor.
My nose.
In the sense, no.
Or the ancestor. Yeah, tell me.
No, you tell me. You tell me. What do you mean by ancestor to that? What does it mean?
Well, like I said, with hominid evolution, it's humans come from somewhere.
That's right.
And multicellular life came from somewhere.
That's
Absolutely.
right.
Kind of that. We'll keep it that simple because we're looking at one more thing that remains unexplained.
Oh, this is this. Okay, yes, this is beautiful. So look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? This is a folded rock. So there's a rock that's actually been squished and folded into this beautiful shape. But it's got it's got a sort of dark green, grey minerals in it. It's also got some fine red minerals in it. And this has found itself down a subduction zone. So we've talked about plate tectonics. This is some of the earliest evidence, direct evidence of plate tectonics on our planet. This is 2 billion years old. So again, in the early part of this Proterozoic, amazing eon that we've been talking about. Comes from Tanzania. It comes from a place called the Usagaran origin in Tanzania, in the middle of Tanzania. And this is about the oldest evidence of rocks that have been to pressures and temperatures that we know happen in modern subduction zones. So that's a pretty cool rock.
The rock system is the rock is acting as a chemical process, right? There's a chemistry basically happening. And then you heat up with this precursor material. We take this precursor material down the chute, down the subduction zone, and it gets so hot, there's so much pressure that the minerals change.
That's exactly right.
And they
form that. Yeah, and so it's a fossil. I mean, it's not a fossil of life, but it's a fossil of a process,
yes.
I suppose.
And these particular minerals, we know from experimental evidence that they can only form at those incredibly high pressures and incredibly high temperatures.
Yeah, and actually, the cool thing about those is they've been to very high pressures, but much lower temperatures than we would expect at those pressures, which is what we find in subduction zones, because The subduction zones take cold rocks from the surface, often with a lot of water in them. They take them down very fast before they have enough time to heat up. So you get this sort of refrigerated metamorphism, and that's an example of that.
What are the temperatures that rock will have reached? What sort of pressures?
Well, it's still been hot, right? So when you said before, it's still definitely been hot. It's been to temperatures of around about 500 degrees centigrade,
which is
pretty warm.
Pretty warm, but for a metamorphic rock, that's cold.
It's cold at the depths that's been to. So that's been down around about 100 kilometres.
Woo!
Yeah. So that's down right into the mantle.
The proper mantle.
Into the proper mantle.
Gosh.
And popped up again, which is a whole
another
story. Yeah.
What I often say to students is that even though it's awesome, we're literally sitting here with our rock collections on our table. However, the reason why we're so into rocks is because fossils, that's awesome, because they are evidence of processes. They're not just nouns and trinkets, they're verbs. That's from a book I love called Timefulness. But just, they're processes. Even though it's absolutely sick to have this on your bookshelf, it's actually the story is in the science that it reveals, in the earth that it reveals, not just that it's shiny and gorgeous.
They're pretty good-looking rocks.
They're pretty good. It helps if they're good-looking rocks. This one's still got a little way to go on the prettiness. It makes up for it in amazingness.
Yeah.
Alan, thank you. Thanks for that little bonus session. It's just incredible.
Thank you.
Thank you heaps.